Testing one, two, three. That was weird. La 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 la. That was weird. Testing one, two, three. That was weird. Okie dokie. Where is that? Alrighty. So, that was weird, and apologies for any weird sound, background things that were going on. I'm having some fun with our sound today. All right. So, welcome back to the 2D Animation Virtual Summit. I'm your host, Tony Ross. In theory, I should be able to see comments from YouTube as well as Facebook. I still don't think I'm actually getting comments in from LinkedIn, but I am trying to monitor those. So, always fun playing with technical stuff. So, without getting too far behind, I do want to get started here. Hopefully, everyone can hear me fine, and I'm not just talking to the Ethernet. So, alrighty. We're going to get started with another one of my buddies, one of my friends and colleagues, Mr. Tony Grillo. Let's see. Where am I? Wait 1 second here. I'm checking on my other window. Hopefully without getting feedback. Ah, that's where the feedback was, I think. All right, jumping back over here. Excellent. All right. So, going to connect with our next speaker, Mr. Tony Grillo. And about to start that now. Is Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, and I am hanging out with my longtime friend, name twin, and like little buddy here. Quit fricking with the fan, dude. Mr. Tony Grillo. How's it going, man?
It's going great. Nice and cool until maybe 5 minutes from now, and then it starts to heat up in here. No, it's fantastic, man. Thank you. It's always great to be, seeing your face and talking to you. You make it easy.
I'm glad somebody appreciates it. So it's like, man. So
I mean, the first day you and I ever got on a call, I remember thinking, I remember me saying this to you. I'm like, you have a really friendly face and you're just fun to talk to. And you know what I mean? Like, I was always looking forward to any time we had a chance to talk.
I appreciate that. I get that a lot. I think if I could actually deal with it, what is it? If I weren't in teaching and animating and stuff like that, I would probably be a counselor if I could handle it. I don't know if I could.
Yeah, no, I can't.
I can't. It's like because I was looking at like if you only got some if you only got like yeah well I was feeling bad my boss was treating me bad if we're on that level cool but if like if you're on the level of I'm in a really dark place today I'm like dude so am I don't know if I can help you it's like I don't know if I can be that guy oh man
All you have to know how to say is, and how does that make you feel?
love it I'll say this and I'll move on shout out to my therapist Cleo is she is the opposite of every therapist you ever see. We're like, how does it make you feel? I'm like, no. She's like, Tony, you know that's fucked up, right? It's like, yeah, yeah.
That's
Like,
the therapist you want.
she's like the like a big sister or an aunt. That's like, you do know, yeah. How about we not say that anymore? Okay, Tony was like, okay.
That sounds like a Dutch therapist. The Dutch therapist will just be like, that is wrong. You should not be doing that.
Okay, we digress, dude. Who the hell are you? Why are you here?
I am I started out as a sort of like a video PA guy. Like I was going, man, I want to be in video. I want to direct. I want to make these things. And I started realizing I had a penchant for animation. Certainly, as a teenager doing stop motion. Did a little time in Atlanta back in the 80s and early 90s, and then headed out to LA and started working in studios out there. And it did not take me long to realize I should be working for myself. So I started working on projects for the internet. This was when the internet was booming. So we wound up getting some really great clients, guys like Tim Burton, Adam Sandler, and Gracie Films. And we did some stuff, online stuff for Family Guy and The Critic, and Mark Cuban did a bunch of stuff for him. So I became like the online animation go-to guy, I think, for a good chunk of that, early 2000s. Weathered the .com implosion in 2001. Working on the first animated feature in using Flash, Adobe Animate. So sort of contributed to the process of sort of developing rigs and why that was important and how that helped save us time and everything. And so later, when Toon Boom came along, and people, I was starting to get curious about it because I had a good friend named Tony who was telling me how great it was. So Tony, thank you for teaching me. You actually taught me a bunch of stuff I needed to learn and getting rolling on that. And of course, right away, what did I discover? Rigs. We got to do rigs, building rigs. And, I've been doing a lot of animated productions and more, I'd say in the last 8 years, doing a lot more motion design and that type of stuff, sometimes involving cameras, sometimes involving 2D, 3D, whatever I have to do. And I think more over the last kind of 3 or 4 years, been doing a lot more teaching, primarily Toon Boom. And now I have a bunch of students and I have to sort of explain the importance of rigs to them. And the funny thing I always have to tell my students is like, if you're using Toon Boom, yeah, you might want to, and a lot of people just want to traditional, I'm going to be a traditional animator. And I always say, all right, show me that you can do, because this is a lot harder than using rigs. Everyone thinks it's easier because they're just drawing. Oh, show me. If you can do a traditional animation, I'll leave you alone. Otherwise, I'm going to show you how to use a rig. And the truth is, like every person that spends enough time using these tools starts to realize, and they don't realize they're using rigs, but they're like, oh man, I should separate the head, put that on a different layer. Oh man, you know what? If I just made the pupils into objects that I could move around, I wouldn't have to draw them every time. That's interesting. Yeah. All right. So now you're rigging. You don't realize it, but you're rigging now, and that's just part of the process. If Walt Disney could have used rigs back in his day, he would have done it. It just and whatever version of rigs there were. I mean, the camera, what is it? The multi-layered. What is it called?
Multiplane. Yeah.
The multiplane camera was in a sense of kind of rigging. You're sliding the background through the frame so that it looks like somebody's walking. You're separating certain assets, to different layers. So where we're at now with animation, it's led up to this, and that's kind of what I do a lot of the time. I'm preaching the gospel of Toon Boom and rigs, and when I do speak with Toon Boom a lot, I don't. Most of the client work that I do these days is motion design. It does involve, character animation sometimes, but in terms of like the industry, the studio system, most of what I know about it now is coming through Toon Boom, because we do have our monthly discussions with them, and we keep hearing the same thing. Learn how to rig. There's always demand for riggers, whether it's huge demand or small demand. There's always studios looking for good riggers. And I'm sorry, but if you want to be an animator in a studio, you do have to have a little bit of rigging skills. This is a big part of where we're at now. It helps. It saves you time. It saves the studio time. It's a good practice to know, and you start to find that you, as an animator, you are actually coded to know this stuff. You'll pick it up. It's not that difficult. It just takes a little time to sort of put this piece and this piece together and go, oh, that's what that does. So that's who I am.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, the what is it? I love, and this sounds like, Tony, you're talking like they're one of your sponsors. Technically, I'd be talking like this if they weren't. But
Right.
I've always said that once I started working with Toon Boom, not only the software, but working with the company itself, they're big enough to be awesome, but they're small enough to listen. So
Yes.
I love that. I remember telling you that way back in the day, because you said, well, they're not doing this. Then
Yeah.
reach out and tell them they actually do listen. It's not like that other company where so, yes, and I'm not saying that as a that is
We don't have to say the name.
I'm not saying their name because they haven't earned that privilege. So it's like, yeah, back in my college days, like, I'm not calling you by name until you've earned it. But yeah, that's the one thing I love about them. Hey, we're thinking about this. Why isn't this set up this way? Or could you do this? And I have to do that in forums a lot. Well, yeah, man, Toon Boom needs to do blah blah blah. Have you written them? Well, I don't feel like I need. Oh, how about you write them instead of just you're yelling at me? I don't have that power. Reach out and say. I mean, they're constantly going. That's, I think, everything that's actually in Harmony right now is because sometimes I look at something going, who the hell asked for this? So it's like,
Oh yeah, right.
and it's like,
somebody actually want a thing that you could use to use your mouse to move things around, and then it would turn that into a bunch of keyframes?
Yeah, I was like, who? What? What was the thing that I didn't like? I'm trying to think. I need to find someone who loves using the pen stabilizer. I'm not a fan.
Pen stabilizer, the pull down one that has a pulled string and
yes. Who wanted pulled string?
Sometimes it just depends on what I'm drawing. Yeah, I know what you mean though. Sometimes it like shortcuts the hell out of what you're drawing, and then you're, oh man, that's not what I wanted, But
yeah.
Also, what is the other thing people hate? The polyline tool. I love the polyline tool.
I used to complain about the polyline tool until one day I was teaching a class, and we were doing we were drawing the arm. You have a graphic of an arm, redraw this. And then I was just like, oh wait, that actually works out well. Okay, never mind.
Yes.
I was like, because I kept saying, oh, I never use the pen tool for character design, oh wait, you could probably use it this way. All right. So yeah,
I think for people who have a huge tablet in front of them,
yeah,
that is, and it's responding really well. And this is the other thing. I think this is, as I get older, there's certain practices I've definitely moved away from. I cannot do this. My neck is, the cartilage is gone. The discs are gone. It's just, 40 years of sitting in front of a computer like this has ruined them. So, you get I don't know, maybe not 40, but I've got one of these little like tablets that is up raised up a little bit, and it's fine. I get to draw from time to time, but I might not want to spend as much time doing that if I can do it with a polyline. If I can create a shape with the outlines and everything, that's less like cutting off ends of lines and cleaning up. It's just sort of reshaping things a little bit. I don't think of it as cheating. I think a lot of people feel like there's a purity to putting a pencil on a paper, and I do. I still do. I'll have a pad on a plane, and I'll draw doodles. I love doing it, but it's still art. You're still creating. You're just using a different set of tools. Your
Right.
eye still has to put together the picture for you. You're not, the computer's not doing the work for you. Unless you're using the pen smoothing tool, yeah, then it kind of it's helping a little bit.
I'll tell you my absolute favorite, and for the longest time, because I don't practice drawing as much as I should. So I remember as early as I want to say maybe the second or third year of the summit, because we're in our fifth year. Happy anniversary! Um, we're I was trying to do some pieces by one of my friends and colleagues, cartoonist Mike McDonald, and I was trying to redraw his things and make them look very simple. But I was trying to draw them for some reason with the pencil, and then trying to smooth it. And then I think I'm teaching one day, I was really learning how to use the line tool well, like pulling the line out, still holding down your mouse,
Oh
and
yeah,
and then curving the line while you're. And I was like, wait, how long is that? Has that always been there? It's like, wait, how okay. At that point, then I can trace the hell out of something perfectly. I'm not going to break out the mouse. I don't need my stylus.
right.
I'm
That's
saying
right.
I feel bad. I've been blessed. Again, shout out to our other sponsor. I'm blessed to have I'm using a 22-inch Cintiq, but a lot of times I still am using my mouse, but sometimes if I'll switch over and draw if I have to. But the it almost feels like I'm being naughty using a mouse, even though I was raised on using a mouse long before. I remember when when there were still mouse balls way back that early.
Oh yeah.
They had to clean up the
They
mouse.
don't make those anymore.
I don't
The
think
track.
they do. It's like everything's a laser now. But I remember the first type of stylus I saw was a Crayola, believe it or not. Had made this little pen thing, but they had a little mouse ball on it. I was just like, this is kind of cool. And then I had to
Oh,
try to get used to it. And what's his name? Oh my gosh, Master Lou Hertz, the late great Lou Hertz said, and I quote, drawing with Tony, drawing with a mouse is like drawing with a brick. I was
yeah.
like you got a point, but I did learn how to draw with that bricks.
Hey man, yeah, some great people have drawn some great artists with art with some bricks, It's probably true out there somewhere. I don't know, man. I think if we've learned anything from the Spider-Verse movies and from the new Turtles movie, it's that there isn't going to be, you're not going to get comfortable with any particular way of creating animated films, right? It's just things are going to change, and maybe you'll get those big moments like Spider-Verse where they're playing around with things. I think the different when I look at the two movies, perfectly enjoyable film. Turtles was, and maybe not quite the plot or the as much thought went into a lot of those things, but the just very loose, raw style that they were able to get, and mixed with that very bricky looking characters that kind of go back to the almost like the Clone Wars days, where you saw these very wooden looking characters, but as your eyes accustomed to that and you saw how good the actual animation itself was, you sort of came to accept these things. And this is what's happening with Turtles, which I didn't think Turtles put as much into like just the overall aesthetic as the Spider-Verse films have. And I didn't realize how much they were putting into it until the second one came out. And then people started going, look at all the things that they set up in the first one so that they could pay off in the second one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, like I didn't realize that colors and effects and things that seem very random are not as random as you think. And everything that's on the screen seems to be contributing to the emotional impact that the film is having. So, when you think about art changing in the late 19th century, right, and going from realism to impressionism to expressionism to then you got cubism, you got Picasso drawing these, and everyone's accepting it. Like you wouldn't have accepted that necessarily in the early 19th century,
Right.
but by the early 20th century, and with the advent of all this technology that was changing the world anyway, it started to make sense. This was a break from what we were accepting as art, and this is what's happening with animation too. We're getting these like things that are stopping us in our tracks and going, oh, it doesn't have to look like Snow White and Tangled, and like all these films are great films. I still love watching Tangled and Little Mermaid, all these old films. But then artistry transcends, and you're allowed to break away and create whole new things. So if people are doing this with a mouse instead of a pen, but they're still expressing themselves, I think that's okay. And I think we have to get used to that now, because AI is about to change so many things. We can't, a lot of people have tried to predict it. All I can tell you is I think a lot more people who couldn't call themselves artists before are going to be allowed to call themselves artists now, because they have this helping hand. And I don't think it's going to be entirely good, right? It's going to have my biggest fear is not how it hurts the artists themselves. That's a given. It's going to. Sorry, but how it hurts the aesthetic, the overall aesthetic, and how many people, the ones with the money, the ones that pay us to do what we do, are going to be just fine, just absolutely okay with what this looks like, even though everyone else is looking at it and going, "Oh, it's another AI creation," right? They'll be okay with that because they're just interested in getting their message out there, right? So
Right.
how are we going to go? Okay, let's get your message out there, but break through this sheen of AI, but manufactured realism or whatever it's doing it, because I got to tell you, it's doing some really beautiful things because it's stealing from history. History has created these things, and
Right.
AI is going, "Oh, cool! These are all beautiful things. We're going to put them up there." And then, of course, we like them. That we should, but we're not ready to sign off yet as artists, right? As a society, we're not ready to go, okay, bye. Art's done. It's all the art that has ever been created by humans has been created now, and we have the essence of what art is and what animation is. And now let the computer do everything. We'll sit back and relax. And what? I don't know. Are we supposed to? How are we supposed to eat though? So I don't give up, but do understand that part of, I think anyone that's creating art now has to learn how to incorporate AI into their process. Don't stop being an artist. Just understand and become an expert at aggregating what these very quick processes are going to do for you, because that's what clients are going to want to pay for. And I'm not saying all clients, there's still going to be the ones that want to pay big money, but prices are about to come down. And the only way that works for you as an artist is if you're able to do more in less time. And the way the way the other guys that are competing against you are going to do it is by learning to use these AI tools.
I would agree on that. The funny thing that, as much as I am not a fan of quote unquote AI art, what I've had to do, everything from whether it's writing a can you get off your ass and fix this letter to my landlord and making it sound a little more official, to I was kind of playing around with one of the one of Google's AI tools, and said, can you write me out a 90-day campaign for crowdfunding? What
Mm-hmm.
exactly happens? And it's like, give me a second. Okay, from day to this, I'm like, mother. All right, I hate that I like this. Okay, that doesn't make sense. I've even gone and said, well, who is Tony Ross of Tony Teach? I don't have enough information from that. Who's Tony? And so I tried rewriting. I was like, who is Tony Teach? And it's like, oh, Tony teaches this. And I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. I also had
So
the
you're learning what the internet knows about you and how you are
yes,
being perceived by,
yes.
what is the word? The general masses, I guess, but in the form of a computer.
So using stuff like that, and then they're using what I from a SEO search engine optimization standpoint, I
Mm.
was very leery of AI writing things. I'm like, I don't know. People have tried to trick Google before, so I'm not going to mess with it. And then I found out Google did actually have an AI tool. So it's like, okay, if I'm going to use anyone's tool, it'll be the people that own the internet. And it's and
Yeah,
let's face
right, right.
we're calling it AI because we can't call it Skynet for copyright infringement. So let's be clear.
It's true. Well, I mean, and that's the thing about AI right now that resembles, the internet when it first came out. Like, it is a way of taking what's out there and making it available, leveling the playing field to a certain extent, right? You are now able to write letters you would have had to have enough money to hire a lawyer to write before, or a professional writer. And so in a sense, yeah, you've just marginalized someone's job. That's not good, but it is leveling the playing field, just like the dropping costs of animation made it possible for clients who would previously have liked to do animation but couldn't afford it. Now they can have a little animated ad of their own, and sometimes that's good because it puts me to work. Sometimes it's bad because it creates that horrible commercial with the guy playing guitar in the car. I don't know, something about cars, but I just remember thinking, oh, this is a terrible commercial.
Right.
Fire this guy. Now that guy, whoever hired that, I don't remember the company, the car company, but whoever hired that guy, next year they're not going to hire that guy. They're going to hire AI to do it somehow. They're going to figure out how to get AI to do it. So those are the players that that's what makes me worried, is that we're going to lose the same clients that sort of popped up and became available to us when animation got cheaper, thus broadening the market a little bit, and preventing us all from just losing jobs completely, are now going to go to that other cheap option. And we're going to have to speak that language, first of all. But secondly, down the road, is it going to do what the internet did, which anyone who'd been around long enough probably knew the internet was going to do, which is, all the content is going to fall in the hands of a handful of very wealthy companies like Apple and Netflix and Amazon. These people all have streaming services. And we're back to that point where you can't just remember, we all thought, oh, shoot, I'm just going to put my show up on the internet and people are going to come discover it because it's good. Uh, it just doesn't work that way. And it's weird because I had a conversation with a really good friend of mine here. He's an American guy. He lives in the Netherlands. And we, get together a few times a year just to hang out. And he's he does like more motion design, 3D, cinema 4D type stuff. But so he's never really had the dream of having a TV series or something, right? And
Right.
I have, and I kind of gave up on it, a while back, because it's just, at my age, you don't really, there's not a lot of people, oh, well, we're going to talk to this over 40 guy and see what he thinks would make a good TV show, or, just some experiences I've had and wondering if I really had the energy to run a show like that. I think once I did get to a certain age, by the time I really knew how to write, right, and like, oh, I can write good characters now, and I can do that, but I don't know if I had the energy to like really push a series like that, right? Not so much run it once it was up and running. That part I wasn't worried about. I was just getting it to that point. That's a really big rock to push up the hill. So I sort of fell back and don't really push that dream anymore. And he's like, well, dude, man, what are you talking about? Like, of course you could. All you got to do is like, man, it's just got to be good. If it's good, people will find it.
Oh wow.
Love this guy. I love him, but that is like a mound of horse shit that I can't even climb over. It is. It's just not true. You really do have to have. I mean, if you have the means to feed yourself and put a roof over your head and have electricity and internet and the software that it takes, and like 5 other people like that, yeah, you can make your own show, of course. But for those of us who live in the real world and have to eat and all that stuff, you can't really take a risk like that. You might get lucky. You might put it on YouTube. People might find it. But I have put some stuff on YouTube myself that was really good. I'm very proud of, and went to check every day what do the hits look like, and I'm like, oh man, okay, I got 100,000 views. That's all right, I guess, and
There's
then go and see that the other guy who got 100,000 views was took out, had a roll of toilet paper. He put one in the toilet and flushed it, and it was that thing we all did in college when we could waste
yeah.
toilet paper. Like, and he got 100,000 views for doing that, and you realize YouTube is not a place necessarily where people want to go to sit down and watch a show, right? Like, they've been trying to make it that for a while, but I think it's got there are other qualities that make YouTube what YouTube is, and a lot of those types of sites. When you want to sit down and binge a show, you're going to go to Netflix, Apple, Prime, HBO Max, right? These kinds of places. You're not really going to YouTube with the intention of sitting there all night to watch a bunch of shows.
I have a thought on that. And here's my counter. The one thing that I don't think we are taught enough, at least in the school I went to, we're not taught enough, and we still aren't taught enough. I don't, and I'll put myself on this as well. I don't have, and I have not interviewed in the entire time of the summit, and I need to change this. Haven't interviewed anyone that their sole job is marketing, whether it is understanding this basic marketing, social media marketing, or how do you get word out about a crowdfunding thing that you're doing. So I bring this up because I was chatting with a good friend of mine, my very dear friend and business mentor, music mentor. I've known him since I was a kid. Chuck Carthen, shouting out to you. Chuck was telling me a story about a trombone player. And I'm going to shout out this name because I do want to interview this guy. So, Greg Boyer, if you're listening, shouting out to you, sir. Greg Boyer, yeah, he's had a couple of gigs. In the Washington, D.C. area, he played for the godfather of go-go, the late, great Chuck Brown. So you hear him calling out, Greg Boyer. He's calling out that name. Cool. You know who else Greg played for? Prince. It's like, so Prince calling out his name and saying, yeah, do this. So he has that on his repertoire. I bring this up because Chuck's telling me, yeah, man, Greg put out this, he was going to do this crowdfunding thing, and he was going to teach people. I can't remember what the crowdfunding thing was about, but it's like, yeah, man, but no one actually helped him fund this thing. I said, that has nothing to do with his music skill or who he's worked with. He didn't have anyone helping him with marketing. Like, I know who the hell Greg Boyer is, but it's like, if you don't have that person, like, shout out to, I'm going to do another name drop here because he's on the summit, and this kid is freaking amazing. I'm trying not to curse. Charlie Folks.
Yes.
This Samuel L. Jackson expletive is 19 years old and kicking so much ass as character, and then doing his own show running thing. And I'm going, how are you doing that? One, he hasn't been in the industry long enough to get jaded yet. So it's like,
he's got the energy. He's got that youthful energy.
It's like, oh my gosh.
And he's talented as hell.
Yes. So shout out to Charlie. Charlie, dude, we love you. I gotta officially introduce you to some more people, so you can get through this journey called animation with Not So Scarred. But yeah,
Charlie, we're connected already on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me anytime to get really bad advice about anything. Whatever I tell you, do the opposite.
But yeah, man, I think that's the one thing that is missing. I will tell you the craziest thing, and I'm going to say this without mentioning their name, but you'll know who I'm talking about. I'm going to get partially political here, not saying one side or the other, but there was a big political race a couple of years back, and everyone was talking about the fact that, well, my advertising budget is this, and my advertising budget is this, and this other dude doesn't even have any advertising budget. He's not even spending anything. And I was looking at the brilliance of that because they didn't have to. They
Right.
used social media, and they would say something, whether it was awesome, stupid, whatever it was, they would say something, and then everyone and their mother would start talking about how bad or how good the thing was. So, bad or good, that name kept being said over and over and over and over. And then, hey, wait, they won? What? So that's how
Yeah.
that's played. Um,
Well,
there,
so that's a good example of I wouldn't call it guerrilla marketing because it's not the definition of guerrilla marketing, but it's a way of getting, like you said, getting your name out there and not having to really dump money into it or
right,
lean on a professional. What Charlie does is the same thing. He's got those crossover things that he does that just make people want to look, and that's, I don't know if he realized that somebody told him, hey, you should do this, or if he realized it, or it just sort of came clear to him in the process. But I think that's where he really sort of started popping up on people's feeds. But the other thing is that if you are hiring a marketing professional or a marketing firm or some media firm that's going to take care of that stuff, you have to know you're getting their commitment on this. And this was where I stood at this precipice many years ago when Frank Thomas Ollie Johnson were still alive. We had the great fortune and honor of going to their house. Well, it was Ollie's house that we were going to and meeting them. And because they wanted to get a course out there, they started to see what was going on. I think they were looking at people's Flash movies, and
right.
and early Flash was just horrible because
Yes.
everybody had it and everybody could get it on the internet. That was the other reason why the internet didn't necessarily deliver on its promise, because there was so much noise. There was so much bad stuff out there that Flash actually got a bad reputation. And, they were blaming the tool for all the crap that was out there. Even Seth MacFarlane was like, you can't do stuff in Flash. But it was because there were just so many bad animators out there. And, God bless them. Everyone wants to create. I don't, but Frank and Ollie were seeing this stuff and they were like, we want to put like a series of online lessons together to reacquaint people with the 12 principles of animation and why, this is good and, how. So we were not a big company. We went to meet with them knowing full well that whatever it was they wanted to do, they weren't going to pay us, but we had to figure out a way to produce this. And so while we're sitting there talking to them, they said, now we're talking to this other company too. Should I say the name? I don't think they're around anymore. I could say it. IXL, which was they weren't quite fully IXL at the time, right? So I'm not blaming IXL. I think it was more the company that IXL bought, Box Top. I'm happy to say that name. I got great stories about Box Top. But I had worked there before right before I started my own company. In fact, getting fired from that job because of something somebody did, like to get me fired. That same guy is who got me started in freelancing. He saw it. He saw in me what I didn't see, which was you don't need to be working for companies. You need to be working for yourself. So he got me fired and then got me a job. And that's what got me going. I was like, do I hate you? No, I kind of love you. But I knew how things worked over there. And I said, all right, let me just say, like, they're going to have money. That's great. They'll send a limo over to pick you up. All this other, it'll be great. The problem is I don't think you're going to get the attention, once you get started, once your project is underway, the attention that you're going to need from the people who are going to push and market this stuff is going to slide away. And they're going to leave it all in the hands of some very inexperienced, well-meaning, but inexperienced people when it comes to, how to create content for marketing purposes, right? And I would not say that I'm that person either, that I was that person, but we knew that that's how it had to go. And they did, I've been in this boat many times where the person who sends the limo gets the gig and nothing ever came of it. They wound up dying before this dream came to fruition. And I'm not saying we would have, beat that to the punch with what we had in mind. We just knew that we were going to have to make, cut corners and make sacrifices in other areas so that we could do this because we really wanted to do this, right?
Right. And I think
But
that would be the difference. You understood what the hell it was versus someone else. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's one of those because
that's a big deal, right?
even when I hear again the name IXL, I'm like, what? Do they even know who these dudes are? It's like, do they have any clue? Yeah, some guy who's I think he worked at Disney or some junk, And it's like, do they even know what you have? And so yeah, I think that was the oh man, I hate when that stuff happens. It's like you see like, oh, this person has this now, like oh man, what's happening in with Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli, and it's like, oh, there's instead since his son didn't want to take it over, it's now going to go to a company, and I
Oh,
think a lot of animators are just like, I hope this is a good thing. I don't feel like it's going to be, but maybe.
they're going to an investors group or something.
Yeah, well, I think they've read, and I don't want to call out the names because I don't want to mix up stuff, but I think they had already been working kind of with them over the years, but now they have, I guess it's the correct term, controlling interest now, since it's not going to be passed down from father to son or something like that.
Okay.
And it's just like part of me is going, I really want this to go opposite of what every other story is actually. I am so hoping this. Speaking of,
There's a lot of love globally for this, for Miyazaki, for Ghibli, for what they've done, and I think they can survive this. I think if Disney can bounce back from what they did in the '80s to where they are today. Well, maybe even today is not a good example, but where they were up until maybe the Marvel universe oversaturated a little bit. But I don't never count Disney out.
yeah,
They've somehow they've managed to keep that core philosophy of like the artist is the most important person in this pipeline, and I think Ghibli probably gets that, and that they could probably survive this as well. But this is a little different. You're right, it's a takeover. Disney managed to thwart the big takeover and keep going, so who knows.
I think and still goes back to what we're talking about the Spider Verse and everything earlier. I'm looking for that one place. There's a couple of places in the non-art, non-animated world where people are like, "Oh my gosh, no, this company, if you can work for this company, it is like your dream because they take care of their people and they're it's like that." Because they used to have these things listed like which company is this or something like that.
Right.
I've yet to hear of a situation like that with respect to animators or artists.
Oh,
I want to see a film that comes out that's incredible, that did not totally screw over the artist and don't get talking and bragging points in the media because of how much they screwed over the artist.
right.
And then when the artist says something about it and they go, well, that's just part of the core. I'm not going to mention the movie, but it's one of the ones we've talked about already in this conversation that's already been recorded. I'll just say this: your storyboards are to show an idea of where you're trying to go with something. You get okayed with that, and then you proceed to fully putting out that particular shot. Okay.
Right.
You don't wait till the whole damn shot is completed, rendered out, and things. Yeah, could we change this? Wait, what? But we'd have to go back and redo all that. Yeah, I know.
I know. What's your point?
Yeah, it's like
Wait,
you
you're working for a flat rate, right? Okay,
right.
great. Yeah, what's your point?
And you end up burning out so many artists. And call me silly, but I will say one movie that we haven't mentioned. Um, Actually, no, I think I'm still not going to mention it because they haven't earned that privilege. Um, there was a movie where they bragged on uh, overworking the artist, or yeah, we didn't really have to pay them that much, and it was something like, and for that reason, I don't mention the movie. I won't watch it. If the trailer looked funny, I won't watch it. at all. I'm not going to give it that respect at
Mm.
all because it's like, yeah, but what other people worked on it? It's like, but are
When
they
did this
even?
film come out? Was it within the last 6 months?
No, this is a couple of years ago.
Okay. All right. I will maybe privately you'll tell me.
I'll tell you later. But yeah, this
About
on the.
pushing the artists, huh? That's pretty rough, man. Especially after what has gone on with like Starburns and these are look. Okay, honest to God, animators. We've been standing by and watching, remember when the Life of Pi, Rhythm and Hughes went out of business and they
Yeah,
were after while winning awards for effects for Life of Pi.
right.
Uh, we watched that everyone, we put the green square up on our Facebook feeds to represent solidarity and everything. Now we've got the writers' strike and the actors are jumping in and showing solidarity with the writers, and we want the writers to do well, right? But look, animators have been going through the same thing. What writers want to be able to afford living in their houses. Effects people want to be able to afford to buy houses and live in them. Animators had to give up on that shit a long time ago. I mean, there's a handful of us out there that can do it, in LA.
Right.
But it's we have never had that privilege. Even the writers who write animated series don't have the residual privileges that live action writers do. Animation's always been the bastard stepchild in the industry, and we have always suffered. We've always, when somebody says, in my class, when they first start taking my class, I'm like, is there anyone here who's doing this for the money? Because go back to your job at the hardware store because you'll probably have a more consistent paycheck that way. We don't do it for that. And that's why I always tell my artists, get a second, set of skill set, not get a second job. Develop, diversify, broaden your skill set, learn how to do typography, learn how to do, anything that, feeds into the commercial, because that's what's going to keep food on your table while you're not, working on an animated feature or an animated show or something. And then
Yeah.
you take those other jobs when you can get them, but they're not always there. And
Right.
the people that can really function are the ones who have these extra skill sets. So it's not enough to be a great animator anymore, unless you're just a really, really great animator.
Hey, this is Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit. We're in our 5th year of running the summit, and this year the summit is going to be from October 16th to the 20th. You can sign up for the summit at signup.animationsummit.net. This event is totally free. However, I do need your help with something. This year, to help with the cost of running the summit, we're selling some merchandise from t-shirts to mugs and a couple of other items. If you can get one of these, that would really help to fund the summit. It's not mandatory, but it does help. Now, if t-shirts or mugs aren't in your budget, no worries. You can also help by sharing links to sign up for the summit. So check out our summit merchandise at shop.animationsummit.net. We have some simple summit t-shirts and mugs, as well as some naughty and humorous ones. Thanks again, and I hope to see you at the summit. Alrighty, well, welcome back. We have coming up next, and I was trying to actually put this together. Funny thing about this, shout out to Tim Giovanni, was asking earlier, like, hey, am I still in the summit? It's like, dude, yes, everyone's still in the summit. Everyone that did an interview is actually here. But part of my job as the DJ or the host is mixing and placing like-minded things, like where does this fit in, where's the timing of this fit in, what was mentioned here, what was mentioned in other places, where does that actually fit in onto the show. And so one of the things I want to especially do is time out where we were talking about Charlie Falks is our next person coming up, and I wanted to place that right after we were talking. Tony Grillo and I were talking about him. So without further ado, here is. Wait a minute. Let me make sure I'm doing this right. Don't want to pop him up early. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, perfect. Yes. Okay, I can do that. Yes, we're a little bit behind. So that works. Didn't want to pop him up early. So let me bring on Mr. Folks. Hey, this is Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, and I am hanging out with someone new to the summit this year, and I'm kind of excited about it. Uh, Charlie Folks. Folks. Is it pronounced Folks or is it Fox?
Well, I'm in New Zealand and we can't really pronounce it. I think because it's got an L in there, so I think it's Fox or Forks. But yeah, it's just Forks. I don't know. Just whatever works.
Okay. As someone who's actually spent almost over half his life on working that I have a non-regional dialect, dude, your accent is awesome.
Thank you very much.
It's too cool. So, all right. Tell everyone one who you are, what you do, and why the hell are you here?
Hi, I'm Charlie Fawkes. I've been a freelance character designer for just over 3 years now. Um, but at the moment, most of my work is just on Instagram, and that's kind of where I meet and connect with a lot of people. And I'm working on a few things. I've got a web series I'm doing that I'm very excited by and proud of. And yeah, I mean, that's it. Yeah, kind of in the margins of the industry at the moment, hoping to kind of cross over and fully get in there at some point.
Excellent. So yeah, I saw some of your work and I was just like, whoa, dude. It looks impressive. And uh speaking as someone who's I don't know, so I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And we'll talk about this maybe later, but like I said, looking at your work, one is like, I definitely want to hire you for some stuff. I was like, dude, what are your rates? I'm like, wait a minute. And this is not a, what's the word? It's not a slam on your age, but for the record, I'm going to probably edit this and show some of your drawings and character stuff as we're talking. For the record, would you like to state how old you are, if you don't mind?
I'm 19.
Like, and again, I hate you right now. It's like, dude, no, your work is incredible. Take when I was in college, me and my roommate, we'd call each other bastard, depending on how well the piece was. I'm like, that's a 5 bastard piece. It's worth me calling you a bastard 5 times. So when I say I hate you, it's praise. Just understand that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I always want to state that up front just because I think and I'm not saying it in a braggy way, but I'm saying it as in just like be aware that I am 19 and that what I say is more often than not vindicative of my age. So yeah, just want to get that out there.
Oh, it's like what it was that recently they put they hired a 14-year-old for part of the last Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie. So I'm like,
I saw that. Yeah, the Lego was it the Lego section of it? Yeah, that's awesome.
it's like, so at this point I'm going, that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, that was very cool. I like that.
All right, so I want to hit you with one of our first questions here. Uh, what do you think is the biggest misconception people have about becoming an animator?
Um, Again, like I don't have much experience in a studio. I'm still at university, so I haven't really been able to kind of be in a studio in person. So most of what I've been doing at this point has been remote, and it's just me, and then everyone else is on a screen, and then that's how we communicate and get notes and share stuff. Um, so I mean, I'd probably just say just look out for the loneliness with it. Not that I'm a lonely person, but just that when you're by yourself making something creative with a team, but the team isn't actually with you, it's confusing and weird, and kind of it's harder to kind of get up in the morning and just get to work on stuff that, you don't have a studio full of people around you, like coming around to your desk and whatever, and you're not mixing and mingling with everyone in a personal way as you would in real life. Yeah, so just be aware of the fact that you will most likely be in your room alone working on stuff. Because I think it's important to get your head around that as soon as possible, because it can be a pretty big part of artists' lives, right? I don't know.
I don't know. I agree with you. And here's a funny thing. The
Right.
pandemic and COVID was a very stressful time. It's like unfortunately, a lot of people lost their lives. But
Yeah.
in that, there are people putting around memes because the animation industry, especially 2D animation, people are like, well, no, you just gotta stay in and just kind of work on. And it's just like it's showing people what do animators look like before the pandemic. It was like someone of their death.
Yeah.
They look like during the exact same thing. They're like, yeah, homework. That I was doing that. So
How did you cope during the pandemic? Like with creatively, I mean.
well, creatively, I'm not creating as much as I should be, but I do a lot of
Mm.
training, like teaching, whether it's teaching Toon Boom products or teaching Adobe products. And for me with Toon Boom, I used to get to travel places. I think
Mm.
right before COVID hit, one of the last trips I did with Toon Boom, they flew me to Miami. Good Lord, that was awesome. Um, yeah, I was there for like I think it was a weekend or something, but it was really cool. Anyway, so just going to different places like that, but we still did like remote training and stuff like that. But when COVID hit, everything became remote. So we
Right.
already had stuff in place to teach uh, online, and we just said, okay, well now everything's online. So okay, so it was like, well, we're already kind of here. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think the weird part about it for me locally is like because I do have artist friends local, and us not hanging out as much, and then occasionally when some of us would get sick, like yeah, like it's you never realize how distant it feels to have a close friend leave stuff at your doorstep, knock on the door, and run. So it's like,
Yeah.
thanks, dude. I appreciate it. So it's like,
Yeah, like a weird ding dong ditch. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, somebody left like bread and everything. This is cool. Yeah, man, that was the major thing for me. It's like it's for the most part, it's I think I think it changed the industry where a lot of jobs, even in the states here, even government jobs, a lot of them switch over to saying, "Oh, wow, we can be completely remote now." So it's kind of
Mm.
weird that way.
Yeah.
Okay. I got a question for you. I'm curious where you would be on this.
Mm.
What genre would you say that in 2D animation we need to see a lot more of in this particular genre? Which one do you think it is?
Um, well, I think first of all, I think they it, we, there needs to be more encompassing of multiple genres in a single thing. Um, what I mean by that is a lot of, and I'll talk about TV here. Yeah, talk about TV here. Um, and it's either one or the other. So either it's full on comedy or it's a drama, and it's a gritty drama. But I think we can a lot of HBO series, the live action ones I'm talking about, just the genre and the context that they explore is multi-genre. It's comedy, and then the next moment it's drama, or it's just more interesting because it's more similar to life. Life is drama and comedy, and then a little bit of horror. So I think we need to get out of this weird sort of space that we're in, where it's just either one or the other, and instead kind of merge them and create something like, I mean, for example, I'll speak about what I'm doing. I'm working on a series, Bloke of the Apocalypse. It's just a web series. I recently got funding for it, so that was very exciting. But it's it's comedy, but then it's also so it's two characters, and they're comedic, but it's also moments. I want to surprise the audience by introducing moments of severe horror and drama, and yeah, just surprising audiences. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling here, but I'm just trying to find my thoughts. Um, yeah, surprising audiences and merging genres, I think, will really kind of elevate what's being made at the moment.
I like that. And I never thought about it. It's like because I think some of the really good horror movies that I like are also, uh, for instance, what is it? Shaun of the Dead, for instance. Um, it's it's comedy, but it's not
Right.
the none of the effects are comic. They're very grotesque. They're very this.
Very,
If you
yeah,
change the dialogue and change the music, it's a really scary horror movie. But they've got
right.
this crazy horror, these crazy comedic moments, and then talking about relationships and all this other stuff. It's like, so yeah, I think that is an interesting take on it, and I never thought about it that way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, with that specifically, that's the characters and their relationships. That's the comedic aspect, and then the environment and the situation they're in. That kind of creates the horror, and I think that's far more interesting than a 22-minute series that's purely comedy or purely just this weird gritty drama. Yeah.
I think there is a. I hate when things hit you by surprise, and you're just like, dude, I was okay. Okay, I wasn't ready for that. Um,
I
but
love that. That's my favorite thing.
it is and it isn't. There's a oh my gosh, I want to say it was either Batman the animated series or as part of the Justice League, where Batman is going up against this. She's a young child, but she has so much power, but she's near death, and you're like watching this, going, "Wait, what?" so, so Batman's supposed
Yeah.
to actually go and take her out, and and he doesn't. He says, he goes in, but he just spoiler alert, by the way, if anyone hasn't seen this, like when he goes to see her, he's the only one that's allowed to get close to her. And it's like, well, yeah, you were supposed to come in. It's like, yeah, I'm not going, but I'm not here to do that. And she goes, yeah, that's why I let you in. And so they just sit on the swings together, and the scene
Right.
fades out. And then you see him just like, oh my gosh. I'm like, okay, I'm going to need to watch 5 hours of something funny after this. God, it's like,
Yeah, I absolutely love it when something kind of takes you by surprise, when it's inherently just a comedic project, and then suddenly there's a really serious moment, and it's like oh shit, that was it shocks you, and that's exciting to me.
so this is kind of in theory, I'm looking forward to asking you this question because we asked the same question of everyone. It's like, I'm curious what your answer is, given your show that you're already doing, which is awesome.
Mm, thank you.
Given the advances and the availability of software and technology, as well as the current state of the animation industry, I would argue there's never been a better time in the history of animation for 2D animators to put out their own products than there is right now. True or false, and why?
Um, I think it's true. I mean, I'm in my bedroom right now, and I've got access to every animation software and every sort of tool that you need to create something start to finish. But the other end of that is that I'm posting it or presenting it on something that is completely oversaturated, and where things are being uploaded and updated every millisecond. Um, so I mean, there is for sure the means to make something. It's just a matter of people seeing it and connecting with it, and then kind of converting that sort of energy and inspiration into making more stuff. It's a mixture of the tools, which is kind of less important, but as well as the inspiration and the drive to make something, because that has to be there, especially on an animated thing. Because they're so tedious and they take so long, you kind of have to sustain yourself throughout the process. And there will be moments where, sorry, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but there will be moments where you wake up and then you just don't feel like creating, or you try and it's not working. But and that's hard because you have got everything at your disposal. So it's kind of that yin and yang, whatever. It's kind of kind of that. But yeah, for sure, it's such a fertile environment for making stuff.
Awesome. I would heavily agree with that. And I hate that word because or at least I know I suffer with that where you're going like, I literally have everything at my fingertips right now. It's like there's a point in my life where I was going, man, if I only had the software. Okay, now you do have that software. If
Right.
I had this, well, you do have that. Now what?
Yeah. Now you kind of forced into it, which
Yeah.
is great sometimes. But I mean, what are your thoughts? Are you in agreement with that? We are in kind of a good time for that.
I think we are. And here's my weird thing. We always have been, not always. I will say that when I was teaching college, like in early 2000s, I was teaching right when YouTube first came out. And I remember then telling my students, I can't remember who I was telling this to the other day, but I remember telling my students even then, hey, there's this new thing called YouTube. You don't have to get anyone's permission. Put your own stuff out there.
Right.
And my other students were like, I'm going to go work for this company. That's cool. They're only going to hire 2 or 3 people out of the entire country. While you're trying to get there, do your own stuff. And it felt like at that point, it's just like, oh my gosh, there's the internet. You guys had this opportunity. And then it got even better. Now there's phones that you can actually record yourself on. We used to have to, when I was in school, if you're doing a animation reference, you'd have to go and check out a video camera, get videotape, make sure there's lighting. Right. And it's like now, okay, pull out your phone, see yourself doing this, get the reference.
Right.
And now it's to be, well, you have to have a really, really powerful computer. I was like, you can do a stop motion movie just with your phone.
Yeah.
It's like, there's so many things fortunately and unfortunately, it's information saturation, even before you get into that, everybody's out there, but because you can do so many things, you have to give yourself limits on what you can do.
Which creatively is good. That can help you make some of your best stuff. Those limits are sometimes really important.
Yes. Shout out to our one of our sponsors, Toonboo. I think about the amount of stuff that's in Harmony. Do you need to do everything that Harmony can do in one shot? No, not even one movie. No. It's like dial it back.
Yeah.
Like figure out what you're going to do with it and just kind of stick with it. But yeah, it's that whole little that, and I think I probably even suffer from that whole little ADHD thing, and like trying to, like, I don't know. There's probably a group or a union somewhere of like ADHD animators going, okay, we have a support group for each other. Like, how do we get through this thing of, like, especially on a longer project? How do you stay focused and not lose hope?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the main thing. I mean, I could just take my iPad and have a month and then make an animated short or an animated pilot or whatever from start to finish. And, it could be completely, I mean, I don't know if my animation skills are up to scratch, but it possibly could be, state of the art and, a professionally made thing from an iPad. And yeah, that's crazy and so exciting to me.
There's buddy of mine, shout out to David Spencer, and this is what he used to explain it to people, and this is even years ago because uh, on a Mac there's the music program GarageBand, and he says,
Right.
"Yeah, you have more power in GarageBand than the Beatles had on their first albums." It's
Yeah,
like, you got to look
exactly.
at it
It's
that way.
crazy.
It's like
It's crazy.
there's nothing stopping you. There's nothing in your way except for you, and it's like
Yeah.
that's scary and awesome at the same time. All right. Speaking of, what do you think is what's stopping animators and artists from creating their own, let's say, employee-owned channel or streaming platform or platforms? If anything, what's stopping us?
Well, I mean, I think we're just talking about it. Not much at all. I mean, obviously, there's the scary thought of actually starting something and planning to bring it to fruition, and that's a scary thought. But it is. I mean, we're just talking about the drive. That's the most important thing. And then, I mean, I think the most important part of the creative process is the inspiration and being inspired to make something, because that energy can be converted into a finished product. And I mean, if I mean, obviously it will dissolve and you know it'll flow sometimes, and then it will just completely freeze up for a while. But just the inspiration to make something. I mean, with my web series, it was kind of like a whim, a huge shock of inspiration. And I started making it the next day. And then a couple months later, I had this first episode of it. And I was like, okay, that's weird, but kind of awesome. And without it, it wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be talking about it now. Um, so, I mean, I believe in inspiration and the lack of. Um, yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
I think, and again, it's that whole thing of like what's really out there as far as um, there's no more gatekeepers. Whether it used to be like, yeah, we'll make a DVD. No, there's no more DVDs. Okay, so what do you do now? It's like,
Right.
but yeah, I think there's a lot of room for doing stuff like whether there's ways that you can even make like your own, what is it, Amazon Fire, as well as Roku. There's ways you can actually make your own channels outside,
Right.
stuff like that. And part of me is going, there's some people who are doing it, but a lot of people aren't doing it. And part of me is going, why aren't people? Are you not aware? It's like
Right. I didn't even know about that.
yeah, like Ralph Bakshi was like he would say things. He says, "Are you not aware what the computer can do?" It's like, are you clueless? What's going on? He's like, oh, why aren't you doing this? So yeah, it's like, but yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity if, and I hate using this phrase, my therapist probably hates me using it too, but the whole thing of getting out of your own way, uh, going like,
Yeah.
kind of just going there. Um,
Yeah.
I have a question that I didn't send you.
Mm.
So what program have you been doing your series in?
Um, it's it's uh it's one on the iPad. It's called Toon Squid. It's kind of laid out like Procreate, which is really handy because that's my kind of go-to software. Um, and you know, I'm familiar with Toon Boom and everything. And I'm not just like saying this to kind of, you know, shoulder to shoulder with the sponsor. I'll just say I do know how to use Toon Boom, but it is kind of a thing where I look at that interface and it's like, oh, okay, I'm just going to go to something that's a bit more simple, intuitive. I love Toon Boom. It's great. It's extremely powerful. But it was just a thing where, okay, it's a kind of a homegrown thing. I want it to be sort of, I don't know if this word works, but I want it to be organic in a way. And it's just a simplified thing, and it's working really well for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I reasons I have my job. I love I love my Toon Boom family and call them out on things occasionally. But one of the reasons I have my job and I get to work with them is I normally end up doing tutorials that are like uh, very beginner friendly. So
Right.
I think Harmony especially is it's such a freaking juggernaut that
Yeah.
you learn it and people say, I want to learn harmony. And they go, oh my gosh, I want to show you how to do a 360 rig. And it's like, and I'm going, whoa, dude, no, do not show them. We'll scare the crap out of them. Like,
Yeah.
here's how to animate a dot. Isn't that dot nice? Okay, great. Now let's add on. So it's like, you'll get to the awesome part later. Let me ease you into it. So I think
Yeah.
that's the aspect of it. But in case it's not clear, anytime you want to dive in, and what I like to show is I've done this before with Flash, or what is it called, Adobe Animate now, where I bring people in, like if someone comes like, well, this is what I do in ToonSquid, and I go, okay, cool. Here's how I would do the same thing in Harmony.
Right.
And I know at least a couple of people, like I was watching this thing years ago on YouTube called Honk Barn, like HONKBARN. But
Right.
this work was like, oh my gosh, looks really incredible. And then I watched the behind the scenes how he was building it in Flash. It's called Flash at the time, but I was like, and I'm looking at this going, dude, come to the dark side. You're using so much time that would have been done 15 minutes ago. What are you doing? No, there's a better way to do this. I feel like, especially when you're doing like on your own stuff, the hardest part, I think.
Sorry.
The hardest part for us, I think, is like building out. You might build out a rig, even if it's going to be a simple rig, building initially, and then the rest of it's just like gravy because you're just moving and animating the rig like it's. Right. I call it Puppet. Cubum Lee corrected me on this. He said you're manipulating digital ink and paint, which is a better way of looking at it.
So. Yeah, and I mean, and I love Toon Boom. No hate at all. It's an incredibly powerful thing. It's just it kind of an interface like that. It sort of stifles creativity a little. Well, it might be just because I'm a dummy, and I look at that and it's like, oh my god, there's 1,000 icons on here.
Yeah,
but and then I go to something like ToonSquid, which is I feel like it's fairly unknown, and it's very simplified and easy for my brain to kind of wrap around, and then just completely move past that and just focus on the creativity and focus on the movement and the shot and everything.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Loving that. Have you seen what is it? Procreate Dreams? Did you see their thing demo come out?
Yes, I saw, very excited for that. Yeah.
Holy crap! That looks. What alien software is this? What are you doing? What's happening? So
Procreate is it's just an amazing company. And they're really catering for just everyone that digital artists and everything.
It's like, and no hate to anyone who's actually said it. So I was talking to someone else that some people are going like, what do you mean it's going to be $20 or $29? I'm like, dude, do you realize how much anything in comparison to that is?
Yeah. And it's just a one-off thing. It's great.
Yeah.
It's not monthly bullshit.
Yeah, I was like, that's the one thing I really hate and love, sort of. Because I remember back in the day when Adobe was called, you'd have to get the Adobe Master Suite or the Master Collection, and there was no subscription. So you had to pay a couple $1,000s to get that. And so we're just like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. It's like, okay, this kind of works out. So I do wish I do like the one thing that Toon Boom does, and I wish that Adobe, I don't know if they do this or not, but if you want to do monthly, you can. If you want to do annually, you can. If you want to go, look, I just want to pay for it once. Okay, here's the price.
Right.
You just don't get the update like when it goes to the next one. But I'm like, so I think that's one kind of cool part about it. So,
yeah.
Well, Charlie, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate this. So where can everyone see more of your work and what you're up to?
Well, I mean, I'm over on Instagram. That's my main. I'm kind of trying to post every day. Um, Foxy at Foxy, or Foxy. I can't do it. My tongue doesn't allow it. Um, yeah, I mean, just that. I post stuff on YouTube occasionally. Yeah, working on some exciting things at the moment. So yeah, hopefully you'll see those in the future. But yeah, thank you, Tony. This was great. Had a lot of fun.
I'm glad you did. Like I said, we got some. I've got some work to send you. So, and it's some people to meet you.
Yeah, awesome, love it.
All right,
Great.
Charlie. This is Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, hanging out with Charlie Folks. So,
Yeah, you
I'm
got
gonna
it.
try to work that L in there. So
We can't. It's impossible for us. Everyone in New Zealand, we just can't wrap our heads around it.
all right, signing off. Say bye, Charlie.
Bye.
Did you know that one of the first books on learning 2D animation, The Animator's Workbook by Tony White, is no longer in print? It's actually one of the first animation books that I've ever purchased, and I still use it to this day. Even though this book is out of print, you can still get a copy. Tony White is currently running a crowdfunding campaign for his new animation education app, Drawtastic. So, you can get a digital copy of the Animator's Workbook for a small donation of $10. Grab a piece of history and bring to life the past, present, and future of animation by helping to fund the Drawtastic app. Pledge now at igg.me/@/Drawtastic. Alrighty. So, welcome back, everyone. So we got a few minutes before our final presenter, guest, panelist of the night, Sharon Coleman. That'll be coming up. Be the final one for today. Tomorrow we have, who do we have tomorrow? Mr. Mark Simon, godfather of storyboarding, Joanna Davidovich, as well as my good friend Mr. DeMarcus Hill, who will be talking about Demarcus and I have worked together a lot. I joke about it, but he's the main reason why when I have guys come to me and go, "Hey, I can do voices for stuff," and I go, "I already have someone. If you know someone that can be the female version of my friend Demarcus, let me know." Demarcus is I call him the man of 1,000 voices because he's my Mel Blanc. Much love to you, sir. Kira Kopetsky is going to be joining us again. You may know her from, she does, what is that, Chicken Nugget, as well as she is the voice of the Good Advice Cupcake. And Tina Navretsky is going to be joining us. Funny story about Tina. I saw her project where she was working on this beautiful mermaid animation in crowdfunding. That's how I know her, or that's how I was introduced to her. And come to find out, she also worked on Cuphead, and I'm like, oh, cool, that's nice. But I was contacting you about your own creation. So, anyway, that's who's showing up tomorrow. And I think I did finally figure out who's going to be on Thursday and Friday. We finally figured out the entire list. When I say we, me, myself, and I. So we have that going on. Meanwhile, what time is it? Do I have time to play around with this? I got maybe 5 minutes. I'm going to show one tiny thing here. I was working with building out this rig, and again, this is one of the rewards in, what is that called? One of the rewards in Tony White's crowdfunding thing is a joint project or a joint teaching thing that he and I are doing. Is that the front leg? I think it is. Front leg. But we're going to be doing a walk cycle So I'm going to show here my cheats and hacks for doing a walk cycle. Tony's going to show the traditional ways of doing the walk cycle, and then we're going to meet the best of two worlds. Like how do you go in and change up a couple of keys on a plain generic walk cycle, and how do you give it a double bounce walk, or how do you give it with a little more attitude or character? So let me do one thing. I'm going to make a composite. Where is our composite? What are we doing? Control H. All right, and go here, and this will be our body comps. So I was asked earlier, what's the reason for composite? Is it like nesting animations, sort of? But if nothing else, it kind of helps you keep your socks in the sock drawer. Like for instance, I have all of the front leg here. So there's the, let me grab my transform tool. So there's the foot, and the lower leg, then there's this part here. So I have all of these different pieces. Not to mention I can select these. Let me press R to reset that. Thank you, Lindsay Noller, for that little quick tip. But I can also select this entire, for instance, it's called a backdrop. If I press the letter D for disable, or as I say, disappear, all of these are red, which means it's not visible on the timeline. If I press the letter A for enable, or up here, so disappear, up here. Anyway, so that's one of the reasons why you want to actually have different composites. Not to mention, this is a very simple, ridiculously simple rig. Sometimes it can get more complicated, like even building out a dynamic eye or something like that. It can get involved, and so with that, it makes a lot more sense to have each appendage, each little part have their own, what is that called? Oh yeah, composite, duh. Meanwhile, so I want to show you, let me get over here real quick. La 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 la. So, for the body, what I want to do is add a drawing. Guess I'll call this the torso. Something crazy. Do add and close. Connect this, and let me turn on my light table here. And what I'd like to do, I'm going to use my line tool. I can click and drag. Whoa, that's way too thick of a line. I think I'm supposed to be doing, I think we landed on 16. That's 64, dude. Okay, 16-ish, probably 12. I can always change this later, but okay, that works. So the idea is I'm going to click and drag my line tool. Hold down my command key, and that would be control and PC. Press K, turn those lines off. And I'm using also a line building mode, I think, so I can kind of add to this a bit. Technically, I could have probably used like a circle to build out from that and just connected these, but so am I trying to make this look perfect? Nope. Yeah, and again, it's like, what is that? Tracing over your hero's artwork. Yeah, no pressure. So let's come over here. Let's spin this up a little bit. Probably need to fix that later. But the idea, the main idea that I would like to show. Can I give you an extra line here without it being weird? Thank you. The main thing that I wanted to show is with respect to this, and let me give it a weird fill for a second. Hello, Mr. Color. Hold on, I fill you in, thank you. What I can do, let's add a deformer. In theory, I would probably do a bone deformer on this, as much as some of my colleagues hate bone deformers. Um, Click at the base, yes. Click kind of in the middle, and here. Technically, with larger pieces, you might even want to lean more toward the spine or the stomach, but I'm going to do this dead middle just to show this. Come to transform, and what it basically means is I can kind of give a little more action there. So yeah, it's a little bit of deformation that we have that we can play around with. Let's see. All right. Meanwhile, save. Still building that out. We are getting ready to, I said, take a listen to Sharon's interview, and when we get back, we'll be closing out. Plus, I've got some software to give away. I've got a Toon Boom Harmony Premium license to give away, as well as a Toon Boom Storyboard Pro license to give away. These are annual licenses. And again, if you've ever looked at the pricing for those, you can do, what is that, monthly, or you can just buy it outright. Either way, it's people, oh, it's not cheap. No, it's not. It is industry standard software. So we're talking about storyboard artists, like for instance, Mark Simon works on the Walking Dead series. He's using Storyboard Pro. We have shows like, what is that, Simpsons, Family Guy, and a couple of other things. Almost anything 2D by Disney is using Harmony, so it is professional software. I'm rambling, but special shout out to our generous sponsor who gave us some licenses to give away. So we'll be giving away those after this next interview. All right, where are we? Hey, this is Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, and I am a little bit excited about this because this is someone I've been chatting with for a while and kind of going, yes, I'm going to interview you. I want to interview you. I want to interview you. And I definitely want to pick your brain. Welcome, Sharon Coleman.
Hey,
Hi.
Tony. Hi, Tony.
Um, you're kind of reminding me of this kind of the way I ended up meeting Mark Simon. It's like when you go and you look at someone's work and they're like, oh my God, your work is so cool. I want to actually, I'm a huge fan of work. And you're like, oh, I like yours too. Wait, you know who I am? And so it's like this whole cool thing. Anyway,
That's exactly what happened because we connected on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And I'm like, Tony from Tony Teach is reaching out to me.
And I'm going like,
oh my God, I follow your YouTube channel. And you're like, what?
Like, do you know how awesome you are? Do you know how awesome you are?
I
Anyway.
love it when that happens though. It's like two worlds collide finally. It's really cool.
All right, Sharon. So tell everyone who you are and why are you here?
Here on this planet or just here today?
That's a popular, when I ask that question, everyone always asks that. Specifically, we'll talk about on the planet later, but specifically the summit.
Yeah, okay. My name is Sharon Coleman. And I guess I would describe myself more as a storyteller, filmmaker. And I'm here today because I am a 2D animator and I am a big fan of 2D animation. It's my favorite. I'm from an illustrative background. So, you wouldn't find me at any other summit than a 2D one.
Awesome. I think I first ran across, like I said, looking at a couple of shorts that you did. And I think that was actually, I was looking at that and then I saw something about a course you're working on. I was like, oh, that'd be interesting. I would love to actually get some information on that because it's one of those, I don't know, it's usually on a back burner for me, but I still want to make a short. There's, the idea of like what goes into it. How do you go about it? How do you work on different festivals? Yada yada yada. So this is also why you're here, because I can pick your brain about stuff live, well, live-ish. This is recorded, so I do have a question with respect to creating like a simple short, or what is considered a simple short. I know when I'm working on something, because I guess I have a short attention span, that I don't want to work on a project for very long. So when I think about creating a short, or even if I was going to do a web series, I make all these different rules of, all right, it can't have these, it can only have this many characters, it can only have this, or it can have this many shots, or the entire piece cannot be over this length. When you are thinking about a short, do you go technically that direction, or do you just kind of go the other direction and go, I want to do this story, and then just let it develop from there?
It always starts with an idea, but before I even start with an idea, I know in my head what I can manage, and I like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Shorts can get really overwhelming because even though they're just shorts, and the reason is because they tend to be a one-man show. You're normally doing it yourself. Some people have friends helping them, but generally short films are one voice, one person to an extent. I know that for me, it's me. I do the bulk of the work. I have people in post helping me. I have an editor, sound designer, Foley, musician. Editors come on at the beginning, but for the bulk of it, you're on your own, writing the story and all the animation. It is labor intensive. So I love the word simple and short. Keep it really, really short. The other thing I've found is if you work towards making a 5-minute film, it normally becomes a 7-minute film. So 7 minutes is a really nice length. 5 minutes is even better. So if you shoot for a 3-minute film, it's probably going to become 5 minutes. And that's because when you get to animation, your film will start to breathe. So, there's a lot more room. So yeah, I would just try to keep it really simple. Like I say, I start with an idea. Some people start with characters or worlds. There's no rule as to where you start, but I always start with what the theme or the premise of the film is going to be. I normally have a visual idea of a moment in the film.
Okay.
And I might not even know what the characters are at this point. It's just like a moment. And I'll sketch it up, and then I'll come up with a character that fits that particular story. And the moment is normally somewhere in the middle, or the climax, or the ending. And then I work backwards.
Wow. Okay.
Which sounds kind of funny, but the setup of your film is really there to serve the ending of your film, because the ending is the cherry on the cake. So yeah, I normally want to make sure that I've got a good ending, and then I can go back and fix the beginning. So you can start at the beginning, but I wouldn't waste too much time. I'd move on really fast, get to the climax. That's why your audience is there. They want to know what's going to happen. And then just go back and make sure that you set that up properly. So that's a really simple way of explaining how I write films.
I like that. It reminds me of when I teach like motion graphics. You start at the end, like, okay, well, all the letters are going to be on the screen at this point. Okay, great. Got a keyframe there. Now let's go back to the beginning where we wanted to start from. So it's like, I never thought about approaching it from that direction. Now I've got to redo some stuff. It's interesting. It's like, I also think of the idea. I hate the idea of, especially when you figure out the different like effect shots, or yes, I want to have this action shot where this character jumps up and he does this roundhouse kick, and then the background is spinning around, and it's like, okay, now I need a story to go with that. So it's like, I hate that.
Yeah, it sounds like you work from the the polar opposite of me. You've got all this really, good technical skills, which
Yes.
I do not have. I'm learning harmony just now, specifically to make the film that I'm working on just now, and I'm sort of learning as I go and tripping up. And I always thought learning on the job was the best way, because then you're motivated to learn. But then you start realizing that you wasted a lot of time making mistakes. So I'm not sure exactly the best way to tackle new software. But yeah, you can get seduced very easily with technical, and fancy shots. And I try to, because I'm coming from a place of story,
Right.
I don't want to really talk about that stuff, because it was not that I don't want to talk to you about it. What I mean is that when I'm talking about story, I don't want to talk about it, because that will come later, purely to serve the story and no other reason. I got a little bit captured into harmony and the 3D space, which is really cool. I'd never played around with that before, and I spent months just playing with it, and I'm like, this doesn't help my story at all. I just got and I was doing this camera through the mountains, and before I was just going to have a shot, of some mountains and the camera tracks in, and then 2 months later, I thought the first shot was fine. I didn't need to go all fancy. It doesn't make it any better. But sometimes fancy shots does. There's a time and a place for it, for sure.
I would heavily agree, and I'm laughing at the idea of when I try to tell people, like, and this comes with the most important pieces of hardware and software to have are paper and pencil. You write down what you're planning on doing on paper and pencil before you go into the computer, especially when you're going into Harmony, because otherwise you'll end up being a kid in a candy store and you're going like, oh my God, what about this? What about this? And I also was like, think about the first time you found filters in Photoshop. And it's like, oh, I can add this and this and this. And it's like,
Yeah, it's almost like there's too much for us to choose from now. There's no limitations. And that's another one of my favorite things is limitations. I like to set myself limitations when making a film. I mean, I don't always choose them. I have limitations.
Yes.
I'm a 2D animator with a very stylized, flat style, and I'm limited as to what I can do with that. But those limitations have never got in the way of my stories. It just means that I'm not going to do these animated 3D crazy camera, moves. And but what happens is you find your way of doing it. And for me, I find it either kind of makes it funnier or a little more charming. I mean, when I say funny, I don't know if it's because people are laughing at me or laughing at my lack of skills, or it just comes across kind of quirky, funny, because it's not perfect, and it shouldn't be, because it's a 2D flat stylized character. So the way it moves is going to be different from a 3D character. And I think you just got to be at one with your style and the way you do it. And again, always serve the story.
Agreed. There's one of the other panelists and my very good friend, Mr. Elliot Cohen. We're talking about one thing where I come in, and this is where conversations you and I have to have after the summit, but the idea of he had made a full-length film, and then he told me how he did the characters. And I don't know if you know anything about we're joking about, he did this in After Effects, and he goes, yes, I made a color solid layer. I said, and then to make the characters, he would make different masks. Okay, there's the head. Okay, let me make another mask. Here's the arm. And then he would just kind of move the vector points around, almost like stop motion. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I have to show you how to, there's a way better way to do that. And that's where I want to be, I want to be the bird brain when I grow up. Mariev, hi. So the idea of being a quote unquote, a solutions specialist when it comes to whether not just with Harmony, with animation in general. So when people are saying that whole, I want to do this project. Here's how you can do this by yourself, and it's going to save. It's still going to look cool,
Yeah.
but it's going to save you a lot of time. So.
Yeah, that's exactly what I need. I know when I was at film school, there was certain software that they had, although they would have bought software for us to use. It ended up that, because I was doing pencil and paper anyway, so I was looking at Toon Boom. I think it was called US Animation?
Yes.
One time. So yeah, I was looking at that and I loved how the vector line had that kind of pencil-y, it was like a bitmap,
right.
But you could treat it like a vector, and it was like, oh, I like that. Because that's one of the reasons why I never went to digital. I never liked the brushes.
Right.
But so I was looking at that, but in the end, it was pencil and paper, which I was doing anyway, scanning it, and then it was Adobe software. So we did the whole After Effects nightmare of having hundreds of little layers per frame, like stretched out to 2 frames because it was on 2s. I've got my X sheet, or my dope sheet as they call it in the UK. This one's like 4 frames, so you're stretching out 4 frames and moving over. It was crazy. So yeah, one of the exciting things about moving over to Harmony, I already knew Storyboard Pro, but I'm hoping to, take away that side of, speed things up a little bit.
Yes, heavens yes on that one. It's like I love, as you say, when you see when people's eyes light up and go, let me show you this. There's an easier method.
It's like, no way, you've just saved me 6 months.
Yes, pretty much. Especially when I compare, I used to do I'm overdue for doing one of these, but I'll do a webinar sometimes when my friends are using Adobe Flash or Adobe Animate or Flashamate, and I'll go,
Flashamate, I like that.
I'm not going to tell you there's anything wrong with your program, but do something in your program. Okay, now I'll show you how to do it over here. Just kind of going that direction. So before, let me get you some of the questions that we've asked a lot of our panelists. Let me ask you, what do you think is the biggest misconception about becoming an animator, or about people wanting to be an animator?
The biggest misconception, I think I'm probably just going to have to speak for myself. There was a lot of things that I was not delusional about. I knew that it was not going to be a 9-to-5 steady job. And when I was younger, none of that mattered anyway, because I was following a passion. Well, we call it a passion, but it might be something wrong with our brains. I don't know. There's something about chasing a passion and thinking that you're going to save the world by doing so, by telling stories or making films. There's a special kind of person that does that, no matter what. I've been in and out of debt just following this, and that is just part of the course. It's like a roller coaster. It will happen again. I'll get out of it. It will happen again. The first time it happened, it was terrifying. Second time, not so bad. And now it's almost like it's just part of the course. Will I be living on the street next year? I don't know, but I'm still going to make this film, I'll find a way. So that was, I don't think I was ever confused about that side of things. I think one of the misconceptions, well, there's a few. So my first kind of professional job was working in commercials in London. And while I was at film school, the word on the street was, go into commercials. All you have to do is make 1 or 2 commercials a year. You'll make enough money that you won't have to do anymore, and then you can spend the rest of the year just working on your own film.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wow, that sounds awesome. I only need like 1 or 2 really good commercials, and then I can make my next film, right? Well, yeah, that's fine if you're a reputable, director in the industry, and you're getting these big commercials. But the reality is that I actually couldn't find commercial work, and I had a studio repping me at the time. So they were putting me out there, and what happens is, unless agencies specifically request you, that's what you want. They're requesting your style. If they're not specifically asking for you, you're pitching for the same job that every other studio in London and probably the States is pitching for also. And you don't get paid to pitch. So, and then you get rejected. And this happens over and over and over again. And eventually you're like, well, I got to find a job that pays,
Right.
And it's not, there was nobody's fault. Actually, the studio kept me busy with other stuff. I do some color work, animation, and I got a few commercials here and there. But it was beginning to look like, I'm going to be sharing an apartment with somebody in London, not knowing, how to put food on the table. Is this it? Is this my life? And that was ultimately why I left London and came to the States when I was offered a job at DreamWorks. So that's a kind of funny kind of misconception that, you just need one commercial job and that's it. It's like, no, that's not really how it works. It's like everyone else is fighting for the same job. I think the other one, which is in feature film, is, again, this is a little tongue in cheek because I didn't really think this. I understand that animation studios are corporations and they're there to make money, and that's okay. That's just how it is. But I think a lot of us go into these studios thinking that we're going to make the best film ever, and it's all about story, and it's all about putting out a really good life lesson for people. It's going to change the world, and so yeah, a funny story is that we were in a story meeting one time, and I won't mention the studio because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but during a story meeting, and this was really early in development, marketing was invited to the story meeting, which was a little unusual. We hadn't even developed a story character. Characters were coming up here and there, but they were nothing was set in stone. And marketing just got hooked on this particular character, and they just wouldn't stop going on about, oh, these characters are going to look great on t-shirts and curtains and toys, and it's like, what is happening here? It's like, the story department has been taken over by marketing.
Yeah, I think that, what was that? They did that for kids shows. It's literally, unless you can make a toy from it, they're not interested. And it's the kid in me is going, okay, but it's like as long as it's a cool toy. But the other part of me is going, I don't know. I now actually have the collections of them, but I remember growing up and wanting seeing a Muppets toy or something like that. And then, why don't they have the Muppets toy? Like I always was like, where's the Beaker toy or where's Gonzo? I don't want Kermit and Miss Piggy. I want the other little ones. So now they actually have those. That's cool. Anyway, what I'm saying is, I see both sides of that, and I hate it. So it's like, but yeah,
there's nothing. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with merchandising. If I could, I would merchandise my own short films. I guess the point I'm trying to say is that I don't let merchandise lead the story.
Yes.
I'll tell the story, then make the merchandise. So the Muppets are great characters. Everybody loves the Muppets.
Yes.
So yeah, we want the toys, but coming up with a really cool toy and then trying to carve a story around it. I mean, yeah, it can be done, I guess. It's a little bit backwards to me.
Yes.
But I'm not saying that it can't be done. It kind of sounds like trying to squash a round peg into a square hole. But yeah, I mean, if you can do it and still manage to tell a good story, then, great. Mission accomplished. But unfortunately, story and characters sometimes suffer because of it. But yeah, it's a tricky one. It's when marketing gets hooked on a character, it really kind of limits where the story can go, because now it has to evolve around that particular character.
Right.
I guess that's where it was a little kind of funny for me, because I wouldn't think twice about getting rid of a character.
Right.
I love my characters that I design, but they're designed for the story. They're not, they didn't just appear for their own sake. They're there because they're going to tell a story for me.
I am curious, kind of a nice segue to the next question I have. What genre do you think needs to happen more, or we need to see more of in 2D animation?
I think I believe that I have seen a lot of different genres in 2D animation. I don't know if it's so much that we need a different genre. I think it's to do with exposure, because I've had a lot of exposure to different types of animation mediums and genres since I was growing up. Just quickly, Channel 4 back in the UK used to fund animation. And a lot of it was on really late at night after the watershed. And I would put a VHS tape it, go to bed, get up the next morning and watch it. And you had no idea what was going to be on that tape.
Oh, wow.
Some of it could be like way out there. Some of it was okay. Some of it was just mental. You just didn't know what you were getting. And the Film Board of Canada, I saw a lot of their shorts. They would be shown around 6 o'clock-ish, around tea time. And then, of course, there was the children's cartoons. So I saw a lot of everything. I'm also part of that generation that grew up watching Watership Down, which was supposed to be a children's film. And I love using that as an example as a children's movie. Also, Pink Floyd The Wall had a lot of great animation in it. So this is all stuff that I saw growing up. So I think we're in good hands genre-wise, because we've got, Miyazaki, Henry Selick, Guillermo del Toro, Wes Anderson. I like Tom Moore's stuff as well. But I don't think that they get the same exposure as, say, Disney, Warner Bros., DreamWorks, and they all do tend to be in the same genre. And I don't know the answer. I know that if you go to film festivals and short films cover every topic and every weird and wonderful story, genre, style out there, and mixed media, if you go to film festivals, you're going to see all this stuff. But I don't know if the ordinary Joe is going to seek out these movies.
Okay.
Do you remember, I'm sure you know the movie Akira, but I don't know. Yes. I'm saying, do you remember? Because I saw it when I was growing up. I was about 10 years old when that came out.
Okay.
That actually was released in the USA and apparently did really well. So it's not that there's not a market for these films. I don't really know the answer. I'm sure there's a market, and each studio has their own idea of what a box office hit is. I know that a Laika movie could do really well, but in Disney terms, they would regard it as a flop because, they have different overheads, I guess.
Right.
And then there's independent feature filmmakers like Bill Plimpton, who would love to have that kind of exposure that a Disney movie gets. And he just doesn't have that financial backing. He's putting all of his money into making the film. And then studios like Disney, DreamWorks, they're using probably the same size of budget to make their movie, to market that movie. And then there's movies like The Iron Giant that was not your typical family movie because it didn't have the cartoon voices, slapstick, the usual fart jokes. It was different and it was a great story. And people say, yeah, but it didn't do well at the box office. So it's hard to use that as an example of it's a good film, but then they're looking at box office numbers. And it turns out that was because it wasn't marketed properly. Yes. So it seems like there's so many cogs to the machine. I don't think that there's a lack of genre out there. And I think people want to see it. I think it's just down to how do we get it in front of them.
Right.
And it comes down to, I think what it really comes down to is money, right? It's if this movie cannot prove to make millions of dollars or X number of millions of dollars, then large studios are not going to take a risk on it and put it into these larger theaters. They're going to get limited release. I was thinking about this film as well, called The Plague Dogs. Have you heard of that one? It's from 1982.
No, I haven't.
So it's got that Watership Down feeling. It's the same director, and it was based on Richard Adams' book, and it's about two dogs that escape from a laboratory where they tested on animals. It's hard to watch. It's got John Hurt, of course, doing a great job with one of the voices. And that got limited release in the US as well. That was actually a US and UK project. I got limited release. I don't think the audience really took to it. But I think like since I can remember, there's been a lot of different. I think there's been an attempt to make adult themed animation, and it maybe, I don't know. I mean, maybe what's your thoughts on it? Like, if it's out there, why is it not being? Why do people not want to see it? They'll go see live action like that.
It's going back. It's literally, I think you already hit it directly on the head. And that's what I was talking with some of our other panelists. At the end of the day, it is about marketing. When you were telling your story about marketing showing up, I was like, oh, wow, they're showing up that early. It's like, oh, they're not, that's not the kind of marketing I'm talking about. The idea of, I heard someone, they were talking, I was listening to this webinar and they were talking about how to become a New York Times bestseller and all these different things. And the comment I still remember, they said, and this can apply to art, can apply to a course. The idea of where marketing is the key thing of like, but the thing they said is, no one wants to buy your book. No one wants to buy your course. No one wants to watch your movie. You need to explain to them why they need to or why they're interested in that. And I think about like some of the things where they go, oh, wow, this movie was a flop. And it's like, but did we even know that movie was coming out? One of the biggest live action Disney flops is like how much they actually put into the production of it, but it failed because we found out later it's actually based off of a classic story, a classic sci-fi story, and we're like, why didn't they mention that? It was like, if they had said, oh my gosh, based on so-and-so, it's like, that was never mentioned. It's like, we kind of caught it as an afterthought. And we're like, yes, well, it was visually beautiful. I thought it was done well. But it was like, why did y'all totally missed the boat on telling people what the hell that was about. So I think it's the idea of marketing and getting your idea. I think some people where crowdfunding is the thing. And I've looked at where some animators have done crowdfunding, some well-known names. They're like, yes, we're going to raise this amount of money. But I'm looking at them and seeing how much they're struggling making this money, but you know the name, at least we know who the heck they are. And I'm not going to call them out by name because hopefully maybe I'll get to interview them one day. But but it's like we know them by name. But then I look at independent artists who have a decent following on YouTube and they go, I'm going to make a card deck. I need $10,000. And then that's funded within 3 minutes of them launching it. And then before it's over, they've made over 2 million, a single person. And I'm going, marketing. So they understood how to get that thing out there. I mean, they had been working on the piece. It's not like they just said, I'm going to do this and just popped up a piece. So in the same way that there's shows that you'll see the trailers and like, oh, wow, I thought that came out already. It's like they keep on pushing it and pushing it. So I think that is the key somewhere. I don't know if, heaven forbid, the word I'm about to say or the phrase I'm about to say, I don't know if AI can help with marketing, but you have to get enough eyes into it and what would be get enough so it's considered at least a success for you. It might not be considered a success for other people, but I'll put it to you in terms that I think you and I can understand, and in theory, every other beginning animator or other where if we can spend, I'm going to throw out a weird number. If we can spend, let's say, a month spending maybe an hour or two a day working on something, and by the end of that month, we can put it out and somehow, let's say if we were still selling DVDs. So imagine if you're able to, oh, wow, we just made 30K from that. Okay. Is that a flop as far as other people are concerned? Probably. But as far as you and I are concerned, wait, I just spent this amount of time and I made this amount of money. Awesome. So I think that's where it is. What is the idea of what's your idea of success? And like when even when you think about a Hollywood movie, like when I don't know, Spielberg or let's get back to animation. If Brad Bird said, I need this amount of money to do a 2D film. And if you and I said how much money we need, it's a fraction of that. So it's like, it's all right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for me, I try not, I don't even understand box office numbers most of the time anyway, and I try not to get involved in it. I guess for me, success would be, this is going to sound crazy because I know I mean, I spent so much time working on my latest film that I will not make the money back. But I guess success would be making the money back so that you can use that money to make your next film.
Yes.
But I don't make films to make money. I have to find other ways of making money. So it's not how I survive. And I have so much appreciation for people who can do it and survive. It's hard, you know. No one wants to talk about the financial strain, but it's a real deal breaker. It's hard. And crowdfunding for me was a game changer, because before crowdfunding, artists weren't really allowed to ask for money. You know, it was just a big no-no. Yeah. You could ask for money if your leg was falling off, but and not give anything back. You know, but an artist who's saying, you know, if you help me make this project, and I'll draw you some pictures, or I'll give you some, memorabilia from the film or whatever. You could never do that before. So the only way that you could ever do it is to find another job, work commercials, or I don't know, go work in a diner, or do anything to try and make your film. And then there's that whole thing. Well, if you're working a full-time job, if it doesn't pay well, where are you going to get the time to make your project? So it's hard, you know. And the reason I'm stressing that it's difficult is because I have heard in the past a lot of seasoned filmmakers who'll say, what's stopping you? Just, just get it done, stop thinking about it and just do it. And we always hear these examples of the great tech leaders who came up with these great things in their mum's garage, and I want to be that person that says, hey, I'm extremely passionate and motivated, but what if your mum doesn't have a garage? I think some of these people are coming from a place, a place that not all of us are from, if you know what I mean. And I think that someone has to acknowledge that it's hard, that writing stories is hard work, and you will do it because you want to do it, and there's something inside you that's making you do it. There are easier ways to make money and not lose your mind, but we do this because we want to do it, and you'll find your way doing it. There is no, I think I've gone off on a bit of a tangent. But yeah, just getting back to crowdfunding, the advice that I normally give to people with crowdfunding is most of the work is done before you even launch. Lots of preparation, lots of reaching out, getting people excited about it. And one of the great things about crowdfunding, it's not just about raising money, but you're also raising awareness during your campaign.
Yes.
So it really is a brilliant thing. So yeah, I really enjoyed running my campaign. It was very intense, but it was exciting. Also, you hear a lot of the success stories. I mean, I didn't make millions. I made just the amount that I asked for. And yeah, you hear about these products that, make $1 million. And I thought about it, and I think there's a big difference between making an animated short film and making a product that's tangible, something that somebody can have. And it's something that either they've been convinced that they want or they really want it. And a lot of people go into crowdfunding thinking that they are going to be the next Exploding Kittens. And I think the statistics are something like, I mean, it's really bad. It's like only 10% of campaigns actually succeed, but they don't tell you that part.
Right.
And that's why I say most of the work is done up front. I mean, I spent over a year preparing my campaign. People don't want to hear that. Right. They just want to hit that button, launch, and watch the money coming in.
Right.
But even during the campaign, it was every minute of every, I was working on the campaign, not the film. So yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's a reality.
Yeah, it was a little weird. When I tell people about Exploding Kittens, but I know me, for example, whenever I see, oh, this is actually blown up. Okay, who's behind that? Who are the people behind that? What following did they have before they did that? And just kind of, that's the other interesting thing, which is why certain people, when they seem like they come up out of the woodwork, I was like, okay, let's get your backstory. But yeah, it's that whole little, we're doing one now, working with Tony White, and that's the tricky part of putting something out there, because it's a worthwhile thing. Just gotta make sure it gets in front of the right eyes. Okay. Yeah,
I'll be sure to share your campaign on social media as well. But I'm not saying that I have a great following either, but I'll try. It's really interesting that you say that you want to look under the hood and see who's behind it,
Yes.
Because I think a lot of it is to do with timing and knowing when is a good time to launch a campaign or start or grow a YouTube channel. I just recently joined YouTube, and I'm really loving all the new things that they have to offer now, like these, go lives and the little shorts. And I'm not utilizing a lot of it right now because it's not the right time. I do not have the following. So I'm not going to suddenly do a live and, nobody shows up. So I think that has a lot to do with it, is just knowing, do you have that audience yet? Build your audience slowly, and then you can start to build on it. Then you can launch a campaign. I was pretty confident that I knew enough people to launch my campaign, because you don't want to base it on 1,000 strangers. You want to make a list why I did a kind of ABC list.
Right.
My A-listers were people that I knew were like my biggest fans and supporters, and they'd get behind me. And my B-list were people that knew me, met me, maybe they'd help me. And C was acquaintances that knew me, maybe haven't met me. And sometimes it surprises you. Sometimes your C list is the person that steps up, but it's just good to be realistic. Like, say, do I know enough people? And then kind of have an average of what people would be willing to donate, and then you can sort of work it out from there whether you can make your goal or not.
Right. And I always forget the person who did this. It's the idea of having 1,000 true fans, the people that if you come up with a $5 product tomorrow, they're like, yeah, let me grab that. If you come up with a $49 product, they're like, hey, let me grab that. That is that whole thing. I don't need millions. I need 1,000 true fans. It's like 1,000 true fans. And I say that because I think one, you still need to go live. You still need to do those things. The summit, because the software I use, I can actually see how many people are actually watching. Is it hundreds? No. Is it over 20? Sometimes when it's happening live, but it's kind of at worst case scenario, you're still going through practice. You're like, for me, I'm still going through, how do I make the sound better? How to make this better? So you still got to put in that work. And then suddenly when it does blow up, like, oh, wow, they've got some older stuff here. Let me go check that out. So that's my advice on that.
That's good advice, actually. Yeah. I guess if you always sort of think about you're performing for one person, if that one person shows up, they're entitled to have a good show. You don't need 20 or thousands.
Yeah, and one of the ways that I do tutorials is I don't do it as if I'm talking to a group of people. I kind of try to keep it like it's a conversation between two people, and just kind of handling it that way. I've also heard, and I had to stop doing this recently. I would try to put out a course and try to pre-sell it, but only one person would buy, and then I would just refund their money. We're like, well, there wasn't enough interest. But there's a guy that makes 6 or 7, it's like somewhere between 7 and 8 figures, made the comment of, if you have only that one person, you still put that out. You have that one person, you still need to go for it. So it's like, okay. So it's like, just have to don't look at that. Oh man, because when you do that, you're telling that one person that they weren't worth your time. And it's like, okay.
I know, but we're in it for the long road, It's we're not in it for a quick fix. I mean, we work in animation after all. It takes forever. Everything takes forever.
All right. My last question for you. Given the advances and the availability of software and technology, as well as the current state of our industry, there has never been a better time in history of animation for 2D animators to put out their own products than there is right now. True or false, and why?
True. I think we covered this a little bit, when we talked about promoting and marketing ourselves as well. It's true, right? It's true, but there are roadblocks. First of all, there's no reason why anyone should not be creating stuff. You should always be doing that. Getting it out there and getting exposure, that's the key. That's the problem, or the conflict that we're all having, even professionals, I think platforms like YouTube and Vimeo and TikTok, Facebook, they're fantastic. The biggest problem that I've always thought about these platforms is they don't have a gatekeeper. So you could be the best animator in the world, put your stuff out there, and it just gets lost in the waterfall. And then so then you have to learn how social media works, and there's all these little formulas about, well, you have to be posting twice a day, or but no more than twice a day, or was it like twice a week but no more than twice a day, or it ruins the algorithm, and all this kind of stuff. So there's this whole other job that you have to learn. But and then of course there's streaming services that you can now approach: Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon, stuff like that. There's a lot more opportunities. Whereas before, for short film makers, it was always get on the festival circuit, and that is now still a really important thing to do. I would never underestimate that. But it was like one of the only ways, and then the hope that you would get DVD distribution, or maybe TV distribution or something. But yeah, there was never really a good placeholder for short films on the television anyway. That was always a hard place to find where to put your shorts. But yeah, if a studio like Netflix took your short, at least you're going through some kind of gatekeeper. So you know that when you watch films on Netflix, there is a certain level of quality.
Right.
So you kind of made it, if you know what I mean. The kind of weeding out the others. I don't know if it's changed, but when I was browsing a while back on Amazon Prime, I found that there was a lot of nothing. And that's a problem, when everyone and anyone's a filmmaker now. So that's the downside to it. And it's a little bit like photography. Photography equipment was expensive at one time. You'd have to be a professional to go out and buy a film camera. Now everyone with a cell phone is a photographer, or so they like to think.
Right.
They forget that there's the skill of composition and color and things like that go into it. But with YouTube, there's no anyone can put anything up. So it's all about trying to find it. But like I say, but it's there. So I hope I'm making kind of sense. It's like the opportunities to get your work out there is there, but it's going to be mixed in with everyone and anyone and their granny and their dog's work as well. So you got to find a way of getting it noticed. Exposure.
Bonus. Well, Sharon, thank you so much for taking time.
Oh, thank you, Tony. It's been fun talking to you finally.
Yeah, like I said, it's like I love these things because I keep being reminded every year, like, oh, this is why I do these. So it's like just kind of hearing like thoughts going, that's a brilliant idea. Oh, I didn't think about it that way. So it's been really awesome to like listen to your thoughts and things. So to my audience, this has been Tony Ross with the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, hanging out with Sharon Coleman. And want to say bye, Sharon?
Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Awesome. See y'all. Alrighty, so one, thank you all for hanging out. I'm going to show you all something really quick, and then I'm going to give away some stuff. Thank you, Tony, and thanks to everyone for joining the conversation. Thank you again, Sharon. That was awesome. Thank you so much. So I want to share with you all the one thing this was super fun and informative. Thank you, Tori Bash. Like, that's what we're aiming for. It was a very insightful discussion on independent animation. Yes, that's again why I was like, oh my gosh, you got to be on the summit because one, if you haven't seen her work, go look it up. It is really, really awesome. I'm gonna post. I forgot to post that link in there. What I want to share with you all is something really quick here. So I've normally heard a lot of people always talking about being afraid of Harmony, especially with the node view. And I want to show you this little thing. This is a simple little character, a little front view of the character we created for Toon Boom. Actually, for Toon Boom's, we made a 21-day boot camp. And it's kind of, I forgot the official title for it, but we recorded a 21-day boot camp for them. And the way that I introduce doing or working with pegs is doing a legless walk cycle. So this little character is just a solid drawing. It's not like broken up or anything. So the idea is this. Inside of Harmony, I'm going to go to my node view. I can add a peg so I can actually move this because there's no bounding box here. So if I do Command P, that is a peg. Great. By default, its pivot point drops dead center of this little rectangle, the camera. So I'm going to move my pivot point kind of at his base, maybe his belly button. Technically, he's a biped. I should probably put it down here. But what I'll do now is I'll add in a keyframe. Let's do F6. And I'll also do one, let's say at, I don't know, frame 10. F6. And around 6 or 7, I will move him up. I'll actually add another keyframe here. F6. But this one, let's move him up. Hold down Shift, press my up arrow a little bit. So in theory, I have him doing this little thing here. So I'm going to copy this, do a paste special. Give me 1 second. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 of those. Okay, so just kind of repeating that really quick. So if I hit, this is a really bad or fast walking one. Let me slow down my timeline at least. All right, maybe not that slow. Anyway, I put it back to where it was. So that's one peg, and then if I add another peg to this one, I can drop in a keyframe at the beginning and then one at the end. I'm going to cheat this a little bit and just scale this up over time. So if I scale this up this way at the end, this is what I have. So I use this to kind of demonstrate again how pegs work. So if I stop this, let's go to the end. Thank you. What if dude walks over here instead? Okay. Now I'm going to hit play. What if I turn off that top peg? He's bouncing in place. What if I turn off the second peg? He's standing still. My playhead is still moving, but we still have this. So it's an interesting way of looking at working with this here. Right. Okay, inspirational makes me want to get started on that short film I've been putting off. Yes. Like everybody and their mother, like who's probably watching this, and this is one of the reasons why I do this, because it's like it should hopefully give people ideas and go, I can totally do that. Thank you. For us animators out on the animation hubs, this has been great. Thanks. I'm glad you like it. It's like re-supporting of why we're doing that. So. No parking, very brilliant. Glad you got something out of it. Yes. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay. Let me jump back over here. I've got stuff to give away. So yeah, that is the gist of, or that's a short intro to how pegs work. And again, if you want more info on that, I'm going to be sending out some more information. I am having a workshop this Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon Eastern Standard Time, and teaching people the basics of working in character rigging in Toon Boom Harmony. Let's see. So currently, I've got some stuff to give away. So let me do this really quick. La, 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 la. All right. So, our day 2 winners. I believe it's pronounced Catty, or maybe Catty or Cardi. If I'm mispronouncing it, my apologies. Our winner for Toon Boom Harmony Premium is Catty Nara, and for Toon Boom Storyboard Pro is Nancy Henson. And those are our winners. Again, we will be contacting you via email. I am going to start putting the winners in the emails that go out to the group, letting people know. So please make sure you respond, because if we don't get a response, that means that has to go back in the pot and we have to give it to someone else. So, congrats. Okay. I found out something new every day of the summit. Thank you, Tony. You're quite welcome. Congratulations. Oh my gosh. Awesome. So yes, that's who's won today. Tomorrow we start giving away one more software, but tomorrow's like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We have some Wacom pieces of equipment to give away. They just updated their Wacom One, and so we're going to be giving away a couple of those over the next couple of days. So, yeah. By the way, the more people that know about the summit, the more sponsors I can reach out to and kind of say, hey, these are how many eyes are going to be on it, or going to be watching, so we can give away more stuff. As well as, if you like one, sharing with that, as well as if you want some merch, go ahead and grab some. We've got at least, I think we actually got a couple of people that grabbed some t-shirts, and thank you for that. I am tongue twisted right now. I can't even say what that says. So yeah, it's been awesome, and I want to say thanks again for everyone who's actually joined us for today. Tomorrow, I will tell you who we have coming up. Mark Simon, Joanna Davidovich, Demarcus Hill, Kira Kopetsky, and Tina Navretsky will be showing up tomorrow. We'll be starting again at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we typically end around 3:15, 3:30, depending on the way that the things run. Hopefully we won't have any more technical issues, but we shall see. So, anyway, I'm rambling. This has been Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit. This is the end of day 2. If you do want to watch any of yesterday, simply go to replay.animationsummit.net. Later today, I'll be posting today's replay there as well. And hopefully, I think maybe I can figure out how to make sure maybe my recording doesn't have the echo from Chris earlier. So we'll see. So once again, I'm especially excited for Joanna. Take care, and so long. Awesome. Take care, everybody. Cool. Very excited for tomorrow. Today had a lot of great discussions. I know, right? Yeah, it's really cool. I have some really cool people, and there's some awesome things. Like Mark is going to have some really cool things to say. I think everyone has some really cool pointers. You're welcome. Like, for me, I love asking. This is one of the reasons I started this year, kind of asking the same questions, because everyone comes up with a different answer. So, going to run. All right. You're welcome so much. All right. Oh, and by the way, I kind of said this. We are planning on doing it initially this week, but life happens. So for those of you who are in the Atlanta, Georgia area, those of you who are planning on traveling to the Atlanta, Georgia area, it's unofficial right now when it will happen, but hopefully sometime, maybe next month, we're going to have a little get together, a little hangout, a little summit soiree at one of the local pubs that's like pet and kid friendly. So it'll be, I'll send out an email. Maybe we'll use that to announce the official launch of the podcast coming out. So, all right. Have a good one. Signing off. This has been Tony Ross for the 2D Animation Virtual Summit, and I will see you all tomorrow for day 3. Bye.